What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Ronan, and I'll be your host. We got a lot of things to cover today because it's a very massive part, and it's going to be the conclusion to the Pokemon Forever arc of this special. But before we get into that, I'm going to need you guys to do the usual thing. Take a look at the analytical stat bar right here, drop a like, drop a comment, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so that way you'll never miss an upload from the channel. But with all that being said, let's get into What If Indigo Champion Ash Challenged the Johto League Season 2, Part 11. I hope you enjoy. We begin today's part on the night of the attack of the Red Gyarados. Both Team Gary and Team Ash are in the Pokemon Center with Lance, inquiring about what the Elite Four member of the Kanto region is doing here. While Lance makes a brief comment about how he's from Blackthorn City here in the Johto region, he shifts the focus to the current task at hand on the Red Gyarados and why it was rampaging. This is where Lance informs everybody that his actual profession, besides being a member of the Kanto Elite Four and some other things that have to do with the Pokemon League, is that of an international policeman. He's charged with hunting down specific groups and organizations, especially when they're deemed a threat to multiple regions. In this case, he's talking about Team Rocket. However, before Lance can get out any details of his current mission and why he is in Mahogany Town, Ash immediately chimes in, saying that he dealt with Team Rocket back in Goldenrod City when they had attacked, so they should no longer be a problem, as he took care of Giovanni personally. However, Lance informs Ash that just because he took Giovanni down doesn't mean that Team Rocket has been dealt with. This brings us to the reason why Lance is currently in Mahogany Town, as a rogue faction of Team Rocket has set up base either in the town or somewhere around the Lake of Rage, and they have it on good authority that they may be in possession of a mythical Pokemon. This is where the collective four members of Team Gary look at each other with great concern. This includes Sammy, as they interrupt Lance, which he feels is becoming a bothersome habit for the group. However, this may be something that he wants to listen to, as Team Gary goes on to explain their experience with a mythical Pokemon, or more precisely, Sammy's experience, and about how he's from the past and he was brought here by Celebi. When Sammy arrived in this timeline, Celebi just disappeared and they haven't seen it since. This statement has captured the attention and interest of Lance, as he wants to know everything that the boy has to offer. Pulling out a pen and a pad of paper, Lance tells the boy to start from the beginning. Do not spare any detail, no matter how minute. He needs to know everything. So Sammy begins to tell his tale, starting from the beginning of what he was doing on that day in the forest and his destination oh so many years ago. Now we cut to Pryce, who isn't exactly one for sitting around. He's quite agitated that someone would dare attack his town and unleash a monster like that Gyarados in an attempt to destroy it, so he aims to get to the bottom of it. And this is where we find Pryce, north of Mahogany Town, as he has entered the territory known as the Lake of Rage. This is one of the biggest unnatural formations in the Johto region, as it's believed to have been caused by a group of rampaging Gyarados in the distant past. However, this was before Pryce's time, and he's not really concerned with the story. He's more concerned with the here and the now. And the here and now entails the possibility of someone setting up operations on the lake who isn't really welcome. And if that's the case, then Pryce aims to do what he does best: show these people the door as quickly as possible. However, much to the old man's dismay, what he finds is nothing. There's no signs of any type of human activity here at the lake, and even though it's in the dead of the night, it's clear that the only type of activity that's been happening around here lately is just that of the people who live around the lake. That's very sparsely populated. However, the decades of experience tells the old man that this isn't right. He can feel it in his bones and something is off. And if there's anything that time has taught him, it's patience will get him the most results. So Pryce finds himself a nice cozy spot behind a bush and just sits, waiting for any signs of anything that looks suspicious to the old man. Luckily, he doesn't have to wait too long, about an hour or so, before he notices two characters that aren't familiar to the Mahogany Town area. They are approaching west of the lake, and they begin to crest around the bend, heading northward. Knowing that this is the lead he's been looking for, Pryce begins to slowly make his way through the brush, using the darkness and the shadows to cover his tracks. The old man must do what he can to keep the noise to a minimum as he follows his prey, hoping that they will reveal some deep secret to him. As he gets closer, he can hear them talking about things, one being the name of the two as they each address each other, one known as Hun and the other one known as Attila. And another thing that he catches on is that the two seem to be displeased with the new guy in charge, as they feel since they've been with Team Rocket longer, they should have a little bit more power than he does. However, the two bicker over which one is going to actually seize that power first. just poking jabs at each other, saying that they're scared to even approach the marauder about trying to capture what is truly and rightfully theirs. Just when Pryce begins to get annoyed by this incessant babble, he finds them stopping at a large rock, something that he never quite noticed at the lake before. And there's a reason why he never noticed it. It's because it doesn't belong here. As they push a keypad that is hidden within the rock's face, and a door begins to slide open, and the two disappear inside. Knowing this is his only chance to find out what is truly going on, Pryce risks being seen by bolting out into the open and rushing through the door just as it slams shut. He finds himself in a large stairwell that descends deep beneath the lake. Knowing this can't be good, Pryce proceeds with caution, hoping not to be spotted by anyone. After what seems like an eternity, Pryce finally finds himself at the bottom of the stairwell, to which he's met with a labyrinth of metal hallways that lead in all sorts of directions. However, he can hear the echoes of people talking off in the distance. Knowing he needs to get to the bottom of things, Pryce slowly begins to descend down the hallways, trying to find any type of opening or doors that could provide any type of understanding of this place. Unfortunately for the old man, because his attention is focused on solely finding out what exactly is going on here, he fails to notice a certain scratch cat that has caught on to him being within the base, as he is slowly being hunted by the feline. After trying many doors, Pryce finally finds one that will allow him access, and unfortunately for him, as soon as the door opened, he's met with a bonk to the back of the head, knocking him out cold, only to see a certain cat and redhead standing over him, asking what they should do next with this old man. Now we shift the focus of everything back to the Pokemon Center, as Sammy finishes up his story that he's been telling to Lance for the better part of an hour now. The Pokemon G-Man asks if that is everything. Like he said before, whatever information that Sammy could have, no matter how small, could be the one thing that they need to figure this out. But Sammy says that's all I have. After waking up in the forest, I met Gary and his friends, and now I'm here in Mahogany Town, and that leads us to talking with you. I see, Lance remarks. Well, you've had quite the journey, young man, and I'm sorry that you've had to leave everything you knew behind, but I can promise you this. I will do whatever is in my power to make sure that you are comfortable here in our time, and if I can get you back home, I will. Sammy thanks Lance for the kindness that he's shown him, and he understands that what he says could be an empty promise, and he won't hold him to it, but he knows the G-Man truly believes in what he just said, and he will do whatever he can to at least attempt to make it happen. It is at this point that Lance asks Ash if he can have a one-on-one conversation with him. There's some things that he feels like he needs to talk to the champion of the Kanto region alone, and because Ash is on that level of a trainer, Lance feels that he would be the best person to confide this in. So the two stand up from the table, asking everyone to excuse them, while they head outside to discuss some important matters that they mask as Pokemon League business. Once outside, Lance begins to lay out the totality of the situation that they're in. He tells Ash that this rogue faction of Team Rocket is possibly the most dangerous, as he knows who they are led by. Someone that calls themselves the Iron Mass Marauder. And the reason why they're referred to as a rogue faction is because the Marauder refused to take orders from anybody, including Giovanni, causing him to go AWOL to start his own sect of Team Rocket, if you will. And to make matters worse, he doesn't share the same tact that Giovanni did, as the Marauder will just simply take whatever he wants whenever he wants. It doesn't matter who is in the way or who gets hurt. So there is real danger to the town of Mahogany if he is actually here. Well, not to worry, Lance. Both me and you are here, so I'm sure with us combining forces, we can stop whoever this is. While Lance appreciates Ash's youthful optimism, he informs the young Indigo champion that things are far worse than what they seem, as the reason why he is here is because he is trying to get information on if these rumors of Team Rocket being in this area are true, because unfortunately things at home have become a little uneasy, as a new faction of Team Rocket has popped back up in the Kanto region, and he has been dealing with that as of recently, until he had heard rumors about what happened with Giovanni and Goldenrod. He figured that Ash may have had something to do with it, but reports kept coming in across his desk about members of Team Rocket popping up all over the eastern part of the Johto region, so he knew that whatever had happened in Goldenrod had nothing to do with what is going on now, which means that the rogue faction that he thought was in Kanto region may have made their way to the Johto region. And what's worse, it may mean that there are actually 2 new factions of Team Rocket vying for power. And the only thing that is more dangerous than an evil organization that is under the thumb of one ruler is a fractured organization that has 2 separate ones vying for power. Then all bets are off, and anyone that gets caught in the crosshairs will be considered collateral damage. Looking down at the ground, Ash contemplates everything, now finally having a full understanding of the entire situation. But there's one thing that they can't deny. They have to deal with what's happening here in Mahogany Town first. Once they do that, then they can figure about what's happening back home. After all, best case scenario, it's just the one faction that's moved out here to Johto, but they won't know until they actually face them. Ash looks at Lance and flashes a smile, telling him as Kanto's champion, he's not going to stand by. It doesn't matter if it's in his home region or in another region. He's going to stop Team Rocket once and for all. Lance smiles and prepares to say something, only to be interrupted by a frantic call from the gym attendant Sheila. She's asking if Lance and Ash have seen Pryce. He's been missing for several hours, and she was hoping that he was here talking with them. But both Lance and Ash shake their heads. They haven't seen the gym leader since this afternoon, after the red Gyarados was caught. This statement causes a look of concern to plaster across Sheila's face, as she states that if Pryce isn't here with them, then there's only one other place he could be, at the Lake of Rage, trying to figure out why the Gyarados attacked. It's in this moment that Lance and Ash both realize one thing. Whatever they're planning, it cannot wait. They have to move tonight. Back at the base, Pryce begins to finally stir as he wakes up to pain in the back of his head and a haziness as his vision tries to come back into focus. This is where he's greeted by an odd man in a costume. The man tries to make some quick-witted comments about Pryce being too old for what he's inquiring to do, but Pryce won't have any of it, telling the man that he's not welcome in Mahogany Town and he needs to leave right away. Pryce's sudden outburst takes the man by surprise. "You got some stones, old man. I'll give you that, but that alone won't get you what you want. And I'm here to tell you, I'm beginning to like Mahogany Town, and I won't be leaving, as it's essential to our plans." The man then introduces himself as the Iron Mask Marauder, and he is the current leader of Team Rocket. However, once again, Pryce interrupts him, telling him that he doesn't care. Just get out of Mahogany Town. With a brief chuckle, the Marauder tells Pryce that he can't, as the Lake of Rage is integral to his plan. He then demonstrates what he is talking about when he reveals Celebi in its incubation tube, and he activates the machine that is attached to Celebi, forcing it to awaken. This moment brings flashbacks to Pryce, one of his most painful memories from back when he was a young trainer, when his most trusted companion abandoned him. That night, that Pokemon was there, Celebi. It's been over 50 years. However, Pryce's flashbacks are interrupted when the temporal power of Celebi is harnessed, and something begins to happen. The base they are in begins to shake violently as the Marauder opens up a viewing screen that peers off into the depths of the Lake of Rage. It's here that Pryce can see the Magikarp beginning to flail about like they're in pain. Then suddenly, bright lights begin to erupt from the depths as all of the Magikarps are forced into their next stage of evolution, Gyarados. It was you, wasn't it? The one who released the red Gyarados on the town. It seems I finally have your attention now. So, are you ready to play ball, or am I gonna have to unleash these ones as well? The Marauder says with a sinister sneer. Now that Pryce is beginning to understand the gravity of this situation, he realizes that he does need to poke and prod at the Marauder's plan, to which the Marauder is more than happy to talk about, as it's the best one he has ever come up with, and nobody's ever going to see Pryce again, so what's the harm in telling him? The sinister Rocket Commander goes on to reveal that he intends to use Celebi's connection to time and space as a way to force Pokemon to evolve to their highest level and to the point when they were in peak physical condition in their lifetime, then trapping them at that point, so they'll be eternally youthful. Then to secure his spot at the top of the food chain, he intends to combine this with the tech of the Dark Balls, and he will have an unstoppable army at his disposal. The Marauder says this as he watches on the viewing screen that Jessie and Meowth are throwing a bunch of Dark Balls into the lake, capturing all of the rampaging Gyarados, signifying the start of the Marauder's spoken of army. Pryce tells the Marauder this is a foolish plan. No one person could hope to control that much power. However, the Marauder contradicts this, telling him that as long as he is in control of Celebi, he can control the world. It doesn't matter where or When? You'll live to regret those words, the old man says. Well, perhaps it's time we dispose of you then, the marauder counters, only to be interrupted when an alarm in the base starts to go off. Clicking around on the viewing cameras, the marauder comes across a sight that he wasn't expecting. Attila and Hun are engaged with the battle with Team Gary and Lance and Ash. Lance uses this as an opportunity to tear through the base, looking for the marauder. He's knocking down wall by wall, and the marauder can do nothing but watch Lance on the monitors as he tears through the base. Realizing he's going to need to do something about this, the marauder decides that he's going to confront Lance head on, so he runs from the room, leaving Pryce and Meditite alone to watch the destruction unfold on the monitors. However, this isn't going to continue for long, as Meditite, who visibly looks like it's been in a fight, sees Gary on the screen and decides that it has a path to redemption. It's going to track down the Oak Boy and get the Hound Hour and bring it back to the marauder for its chance to regain its trainer's favor and rejoin him. At this, Meditite takes off, leaving Pryce alone in the room to watch the horrors unfold. Now we move over to things from the perspective of our heroes. Both Team Gary and Ash have split off from Lance, and they are all off in the base doing different things, trying to find out exactly where Pryce is and discover what this place actually is about. This is where we find Lance, as he comes face to face with the person he's been seeking, the Marauder. I had a feeling you were here in Johto, Lance says, to which the Marauder says it's not like he made it a secret. He wasn't trying to hide. He was just looking for a valuable tool before he made his move and captured the leadership of Team Rocket, to which he's been able to do within the last couple of days. So any chance that Lance had to stop him has long since gone out the window. With Dragonite by his side, Lance tells the Marauder that he's mistaken. He's going to be taken in, whether he comes willingly or Lance has to use force. Pulling a dark ball from his vest, the Marauder laughs, sending in his Tyranitar. Just because you're a member of Kanto's Elite Four doesn't mean you have any chance against me, Dragon Master. What follows is an all-out brawl between the two pseudo-legendaries as Dragonite and Tyranitar trade blows, not giving any quarter to one another. And unfortunately for Lance, it looks like the Marauder was right, as this Tyranitar not only has the type advantage, but it seems to have the level advantage against Dragonite. And even though the Dragon type is well trained, it's having trouble keeping up with it. Even Dragonite's most devastating attack, Hyper Beam, has little effect on the thick hide of Tyranitar. Things are beginning to look bleak for Lance as Dragonite ends up on the back foot and Tyranitar is getting ready to deliver the finishing blow. That is, until a command is given. Gliscor, use X-Scissor. Pikachu, use Thunder. Meganium, use Razor Leaf. A barrage of multiple attacks begins to envelop Tyranitar, pushing it back in the Marauder's direction, allowing Dragonite time to recover. You didn't think we'd let you do this by yourself, did you, Lance? Ash says to him. Lance simply replies that he thought he could handle it, but it turns out he may have been wrong. So thanks for the assist, Ash. Since you're here, what do you say we apply some more pressure? With a smile on his face, Ash says he wouldn't have it any other way. Now the Marauder finds himself staring down both the champion of the Indigo League and one of its members of the Elite Four. This was not something he was planning to do. One-on-one he could take them no problem, but even with the assistance of his other Pokemon, there's no way he will be able to stand up to both of these trainers. Realizing he's outclassed, he tells Tyranitar to begin to rampage, destroy everything in sight. This forces all the Pokemon to focus on Tyranitar to try and stop it from destroying everything, because there's one thing that Ash and Lance have come to realize. The walls of the base are built right on the outside of the lake, which means that if any one of them are compromised, this base will begin to flood and everyone inside will be in danger. So they order their Pokemon to do what they can to subdue Tyranitar, and in this confusion, the Marauder uses it as coverage to escape and enact his contingency plan. Luckily, he doesn't have to go far in order to make it to Celebi. Entering the room, the first thing that he notices that Pryce is no longer there. Oh well, the old man must have escaped in the confusion of everything. But he's got other things to worry about as he begins to push a sequence of buttons on the console, freeing the time-traveling Pokemon. However, it remains in a trance as the Marauder orders it. Teleport them outside of the base, as they have some enemies they have to start to prepare for. In a flash, they are gone just as the room begins to collapse in on itself due to the rampage of Tyranitar not too far away. Luckily, with the combined efforts of Ash and Lance, they are able to subdue the rampaging beast, but not before one of the walls is unfortunately compromised, causing the base to begin to flood. Realizing they need to get out, Lance and Ash both split up, choosing to go their separate ways to try and find everybody in the base and warn them about the flood, so that way everybody can get to safety. It's a good thing they do too, because Ash ends up coming across Sammy as he's trapped under some debris in a room that is quickly filling with water. This is where the efforts of Meganium and Pikachu pay off, as with the size of Meganium and the power of Pikachu's Iron Tail, they are able to break away the debris and free Sammy. Without hesitation, Ash tells him that they have to go, but Sammy wants to know where Gary and everybody else is. They need to make sure that they're safe. However, Ash counters this, telling them that they are competent trainers. They will be able to make it out just fine. But as for them, they need to get out now before they become trapped permanently. Flashing over to Gary in particularly, him and Houndour have made their way through the base, warning any of the scientists that were still stuck inside to get out, and freeing any random Pokemon that may have been trapped. While Team Gary did split up, both Ethan and Marina were able to make their way outside of the base. However, Gary has come across an obstacle that he knows he's not going to be able to get around unless he faces it head on, and it is that of Meditite. While Gary knows that it's dangerous to have a battle here, the one thing he understands is that he's not going to get out of here unless he takes care of Meditite at this point, and there's going to be only one way he can do that, as Houndour steps forward to finally battle the fighting type that has been chasing it for so long. Gary tells it that they need to be careful, but they also have to be quick, because if they don't get out of here soon, this place will be underwater. Houndour nods as they begin to engage in battle, with Meditite throwing a focus punch, trying to knock Houndour into a wall. However, Gary is its second set of eyes, ordering a smog that blanks the attack, allowing Houndour to fade away into the pollution before countering with an Ember attack that catches Meditite. Due to the fighting type having been roughed up by the Marauder and his other Pokemon, he is in no shape to try and continue this type of fight, which Gary notices, telling him that it's stupid for them to do this. He should just back off right now and then they can finish this when they get outside. However, for the fighting type, it's a point of pride, and it's not going to let it go, so it chooses to engage again, firing off a jump kick in an attempt to hit Houndour. But again, Gary tells it to use Smog as a defense as it fades into the pollution wall, forcing Meditite to miss as it cracks its knee onto a wall. Then something remarkable happens. The confidence that Gary has shown in Houndour triggers something deep within the pup, as a blinding light can be seen from deep inside the haze, and from it emerges a devil dog as Houndoom takes to the field and clamps down on Meditite. The sheer belief that the Oak Boy has shown in it, as well as the trust and loyalty that it gave to it as a Houndour, has allowed the pup to evolve into its final stage evolution, giving it the power needed to finally best Meditite as it engulfs it with the flamethrower, roasting the fire type and dropping it unconscious as the water begins to pool at the feet of everyone in the room. It's at this point that Houndour turns to Gary, signaling that it's time to go. Even it understands if they stay there, then they will be in grave danger. But Gary knows that they cannot leave Meditite here. Reluctantly, Houndoom knows this as well, so Gary picks up the unconscious fighting type, slinging it over his shoulder as they take off running down the corridor. Luckily for Gary, he wasn't far from the main entrance. However, once he emerges outside, there is a sight that is terrifying to behold. A giant monster that's held together by wood, sticks, grass, and temporal energy, with Celebi at the core, is beginning to form at the base of the lake. Around it stand Ash, Lance, and the rest of the teams, as they can do nothing but watch in horror as this monstrosity is giving life with the Marauder at its head. Laughing maniacally, the Marauder states that it doesn't matter where or when he is. Celebi's power is absolute, and since he controls Celebi, he will be victorious no matter who faces him. It's here that Lance shows just how experienced in situations like this he is, as he steps forward with the plan, telling the members of Team Gary that he needs them to run a distraction. This also includes Vincent, while Lance will attack from the air. The rest of them will attack from the ground, trying to keep that thing here at the lake. They can't let Celebi or the Marauder move into town, otherwise many people could be hurt, or even worse. This is where Sammy and Ash ask what they're supposed to do, but Lance has a special job for them. The Dragon Master believes that Sammy is the only one that can get through to Celebi. Because they are both from the same time, he feels that they share a special bond, which means if there's going to be anyone that awakens it and breaks the hold that the Marauder has on it, it's going to be Sammy. Ash needs to get Sammy to Celebi, no questions asked. With everyone understanding their roles, an all-out assault begins as a fight breaks out and everyone engages the giant grass monster, doing their best to draw its fire so that way Sammy and Ash can make their way up into the inside. While all this is happening, Jesse and Meowth are watching from the other side of the lake, realizing that the Marauder never really cared about them. His only interest was in gaining power for himself. He's no leader of Team Rocket, Meowth says. Giovanni was a true leader. Even though he didn't show it, he still cared about the people who worked for him. This guy is just trash, he says, as Jesse and the Scratch Cat turn, disappearing into the forest of the night. Back over with our heroes, while they're doing their best, they're finding it difficult to cause any type of damage or draw the complete fire of this giant grass behemoth, and it's making it difficult for Ash and Sammy to make their way inside. While most of the Pokemon present have a lot of battle experience, none of them are really equipped to take on the power of a legendary, or for that, a mythical, and it is shown when the Marauder grows tired of their antics and orders Celebi to deal with them with a single swipe of the giant grass monster's massive hand. This could be a life-ending hit if it connects with any of the members of the offensive party. However, luck seems to shine on them, as out of nowhere, some barriers and reflects are erected. Then from seemingly nowhere, someone that Gary and the rest of his team have seen before teleports in with his alakazam. It's Using. Looks like you guys can use some help, the purple-cladded man says. Knowing they don't have any time to inquire why he's here, they all tell Using the same thing. Yes, as his alakazam begins to fight back with its psychic energy. While the help of the fully evolved telekinetic fox is appreciated, the truth of the matter is, its power is merely a drop in the bucket compared to Celebi's. And this is displayed that even with its help, all the rest of the Pokemon, including the alakazam, are swiped aside with little to no effort from the grass monster. Things are looking bleak. No matter what anybody does, they can't make any headway against this thing. For the first time ever, it feels like they've actually lost, and this thought isn't held by just one person, but it is a collective among the entire group. However, things quickly take a turn when through the trees of the forest and across the waters of the lake, roars and howls begin to echo. Suddenly, winds begin to pick up as they ripple across the surface of the lake, and clouds begin to hover, sparking and lightning, while a low rumble can be felt in the ground. However, the Marauder pays no mind to this, as he orders Celebi to finally end this, blast them with every bit of energy it has at its disposal. Suddenly, a giant ball of psychic energy appears above everyone. Lance and Usine instantly know what this is. It's certain doom. However, just as Celebi begins to fire at the orders of the Marauder, those roars can be heard again, followed by the same reaction that happened before. However, they are much closer, as from the corner of everybody's eye, a shadow is caught, gracefully gliding across the water before it strikes the giant ball of energy with an ice beam. Then, from the skies above, a lightning strike bolts down, colliding with the ball of energy. And finally, atop of the mountain that sits at the north side of the lake, a fire blast strikes the ball, finally forcing it to explode in midair before it can make contact with anything. As smoke and dust envelop the surrounding, shadows begin to appear within the cloud, until the gust of the north wind carries everything away, revealing the culprits that attacked the Marauder's weapon. Suicune, Entei, Raikou, the three legendary beasts of Johto that were revived with the power of Ho-Oh and Celebi. That story that was told to Team Gary, it's making sense now. Celebi and the trio are linked. They must have felt its pain, that's why they are here. This is it, the opening we were looking for, Gary says. Ash, get Sammy to Celebi now. The beasts, they will be able to provide the cover needed, so that way we can do what we need to do. This statement is further backed when they begin to notice something. The temporal barrier that was such a pain to deal with their normal Pokemon is beginning to dissipate at the howls of the trio of beasts. That's it. That's our opening, Sammy says as he bolts in the direction of the grass monster with Ash in tow, as Meganium, Gliscor, and Pikachu all provide coverage from anything that tries to attack the boy. This is where the others begin to engage the Marauder, as Suicune, Entei, and Raikou provide the frontal assault on this monstrosity that eagerly awaits to lay waste to the countryside of Johto. With things finally looking their way, Ash and Sammy are able to get inside to Celebi. The duo then do what they can to try and free Celebi of its trance. However, no matter what they try, they just can't seem to get through. Even a Thunderbolt from Pikachu isn't enough to jolt the legendary out of its trance. That is, until the howls of Entei, Suicune, and Raikou begin to echo throughout the innards of the grass monster. Slowly, but surely, their cries are able to pierce the veil that has clouded Celebi's judgment. Slowly, Celebi begins to twitch and squirm as it begins to come to its senses. That's it, Sammy says. Celebi, do you remember me? You saved me in the forest after I tried to save you. You brought me to the future with you. Me and you were bonded, no matter what, and I'm not gonna let you deal with this alone. Celebi begins to hear the familiar voice of the boy as it echoes in its mind. This causes the time-traveling fairy to begin to writhe in pain as it pushes back on the captive hold that the Dark Ball has on it. The grass psychic type cries louder and louder in pain as it uses all of its psychic energy to push and try and break the control it has. Suddenly, the Marauder's arrogant celebration at being at the top of Team Rocket in the world is interrupted when the ball that he caught Celebi in on his vest begins to spark with dark aura and electricity. Pulling it from his vest, it blows up in the palm of his hand as a giant burst of psychic energy rifles through the surrounding area. Then, everything stops as the monstrosity that the Marauder forced Celebi to create begins to slowly, fall apart into the lake. Realizing that he needs to make a move now, the Marauder makes an attempt to evade, so that way he may be able to salvage his plans at a later date. However, Lance is wise to him, as he orders Dragonite to swoop in and capture him before he can get away. This just leaves everybody as they watch the grass monster slowly dissipate as it sinks to the bottom of the lake, leaving both Sammy and Ash as they begin to walk onto the shore of the lake. And in the arms of Sammy is Celebi, completely lifeless from the experience that it just went through. This brings a tear to everybody's eye, as they can do nothing to try and save the life of the mythical Pokemon. It did nothing to deserve this, all at the hands of a human, and it costed the life of the time-traveling Pokemon. With tears in their eyes, everyone has no idea what they can do. However, Ash suggests that they try to get it to a Pokemon Center, but Lance informs the young champion that it's too late. There's no life force left inside of the mythical Pokemon. It expended everything it had to break the control over the Marauder. This forces something that we rarely have ever seen from Ash, an emotion that's unbecoming of the 11-year-old. Rage, as he aims it at the Marauder. Look what you did! Look what Team Rocket did! All you guys ever do is for your own self-interest, and you cause nothing but pain no matter where you go. However, the Marauder seems unfazed by this outburst, which angers Ash even more. He dealt with Giovanni, and now he'll deal with the Marauder. It's to the point that Ash is going to cross a line that he didn't know was even there, as he orders Pikachu to charge his most powerful thunder to engulf the Team Rocket mercenary. At first, the mouse is hesitant, but Ash orders it as its trainer, not as its friend. They need to make sure that this never happens again by making an example out of this person. Reluctantly, Pikachu begins to charge and is preparing to strike the Marauder. And this is where he begins to realize that Ash isn't playing around. As the champion of the Kanto region, he fully intends to take the life of this Team Rocket lowlife. However, Gary steps in here, telling Ash this is not the way. Can't do this. If he were to do something like this, then there would be no coming back from this type of decision. The aura around Pikachu slowly fades as tears begin to well up in Ash's eyes, out of sadness, frustration, and rage. No matter what he's tried to do, he can't stop Team Rocket. Every world calamity that he's had to deal with over the last 2 years has been because of this organization, and the pain and the torment that they cause people. It's more than any kid should have to bear. Turning to Celebi, Ash makes one solemn vow. Once he is done here in Johto, he intends to go back to Kanto to rid not only his home region, but the world of the menace of Team Rocket. But that doesn't fix the current problem on hand, as Celebi lays lifeless in the arms of Sammy, while Suicune, Entei, and Raikou can do nothing but look on to the Pokemon that was able to grant them a new life so many years ago. Gary asks Usine if there's anything that they can do. However, the man's knowledge on Celebi is very limited. He just knows one thing. If they can get it back to its true time, it may have a chance, but there is no way of knowing how they could do that. However, it's here that Celebi begins to pulse with this faint aura that catches everybody's attention. Then Sammy, something in his bag begins to pulse with the faint aura. Putting down the grass type, Sammy reaches into his bag and pulls out something that Ash has seen before. The whole reason why he traveled to the Orange Islands. Where did you get the GS ball? Ash questions. GS ball, Sammy says. Is that what this thing is called? Well, to be honest with you, I don't really know where it's from. I do know that when I was in a region north of here called Sinnoh, it was given to me by somebody out there, the elder of a town called Celestic. It was given to me as a gift for helping them avoid a tragedy that was happening in the town. Well, it looks like it has something to do with Celebi, Gary remarks, as he points out that both of them are pulsating in the same low aura. This is where Gary makes a suggestion. He tells Sammy to try and recall Celebi with this GS ball. With nothing left to lose, the boy holds up the ball, telling Celebi to return. And just like that, in a flash of light, Celebi is engulfed and encased inside of the GS ball, to the surprise of everyone. However, this isn't the only effect that it has, as the moment that Celebi retreats inside the ball, a temporal portal opens up. Then an unseen force begins to tug at both Sammy and the GS ball. It looks like it's my time to go, Sammy says. I can feel it. The portal is calling me. But wait, how do you know where the portal is going to take you? Ash says. I don't, Sammy responds, but for whatever reason, it feels right. this is where Pryce emerges. I've seen this portal before, and I've seen you before as well, boy. That night that my old friend went missing, you were there, and my friend disappeared. You need to go. You do not belong in this time. You must go before things begin to fall apart and time becomes unstable. With tears in their eyes, Team Ash and Team Gary say their goodbyes as Sammy is slowly forced into the time portal and it closes behind him. However, when it closes, there is something left behind. Something that causes Pryce to break down in tears. It can't be, the old man says. He slowly approaches the Pokemon that is in the place to where Sammy had once stood. Piloswine? Is that you? That night, 50 years ago, you went missing when a time portal opened up, and I never saw you again. The Snow Swine is a bit confused about what's happening. The old man that stands before it seems familiar, but doesn't look like anybody he knows. However, the smell is unforgettable. This is Piloswine's trainer. Pryce breaks down in tears as he hugs his oldest friend, as he thought that he would never see it again. And this is where we are going to leave things for now. So tell me, you guys, how did you feel about this part? How did you feel about the conclusion to the Pokemon Forever arc and how I tied it into this what if? How did you feel about Sammy being more involved in the later events than just a couple of days, so to speak, and getting a chance to see everything that the modern era had to offer? How about the fact that Sammy had the GS ball and it came from Celestic Town in the Sinnoh region? And of course, how do you feel about how I treated Piloswine and how it magically disappeared 50 years in the past? And of course, with Team Rocket done here in Johto, what's this new faction that has begun to spring up in Ash's home region? What are your thoughts on that? Let me know in the comments down below. And that's all we had for today's video. I really appreciate you guys stopping by to watch all the way to the end, and I just wanted to say thank you for that. If you guys really enjoy my content, consider following me on some of my other platforms like Discord, where you can get to know other people who are interested in what ifs, or on Twitter, where I post sometimes behind the scenes updates. Or if you want to help the channel grow a little bit extra, why don't you consider donating like the people right here have, as whatever you could offer could help us get to a larger audience by helping us get new videos done, or some of the projects that we more custom art is getting kind of expensive. So we want to make sure that we have the funds to do that. But with all that being said, I really hope you guys enjoyed everything, and I will see you in the next video.